It's time I stated the obvious or created a clarification, expressed my thought on the nature of this activity that is called painting, art in general. I'm going to express some ideas that may help someone who says to themselves, why would I buy something as insignificant and meaningless as an object, an art object, when I need a fridge, I need a couch, I need to have a better car, I have to upgrade my whatever it is that you have to upgrade in terms of your lifestyle. But before I go there, I wanted to just say something about the way I'm wearing this hat. I grew up in the German-Canadian community in Canada, and what I found really quite hilarious and funny most of the time is that the guys had these hats, you know, they were like hats like this, generally speaking, but they would flip up their hat so that, you know, they had this angle, and in fact then they ended up designing hats that had these angles. They were totally useless. You couldn't flip them down to warm your ears, generally speaking, although my father had one that you could flip down, but these hats look really funny. It's like the hunters. The Germans like hunting. They like shooting little furry animals a lot in their forest. There's so many Germans and so few forests and furry animals left, but they like shooting, and they wear these hats with feathers in them. I thought they were funny. Anyway, I'm wearing this hat, the Crown Royal, with my dreaded red. The true nuclear colors are more honest if they were this way, but they hijacked the yellow. They put the yellow with the black. It's dramatic. It's dramatic. Be very afraid, people. It's yellow and black. No, this is what gives me a fright when I see the combination of red and black. It's a dramatic color. I love painting red and black, but it's quite dramatic, and it engenders within me a real fear. The yellow and black, yes, it's warning, warning, but the yellow is something I'm drawn towards. Anyway, that's a whole other dissertation on the idea of yellow, but I wanted to create a context again. And this is contrary to all the current event providers, as I call them on YouTube. Current event providers. It's like you don't have enough information in your life already. You got to have the latest and greatest on the Trump tweets or the bogus stuff that is being manufactured in our culture in order to keep us in their headlights so that we pay attention to them. And our story, and I'm saying our people that act their conscience. I'm a big fan of conscience. If you haven't figured that out yet, I'm a big fan of conscience. What it is that motivates me to continue to make paintings. What is that experience that creates, for me, I'm talking about for me, and it may reflect in other people's thoughts as well, what it is that creates some sense of what I've talked about, meaning, but there is a sense of, there's an energy around being alive. What is that? Okay, when I say energy, it's something that you look forward to. You want to wake up. You want to wake up in the morning. What is that? Where does that come from? Where does the hope come from? Where does this element within a human being arise that makes you want to be active and accomplish something? And when I think about this, I'm thinking also in terms of that it's beneficial. It's not just like, you know, Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill and letting it roll down again. It's like I said, are these random events and we reenact the randomness over and over, or just, no, that's not how the cosmos was structured, because the mystery, the complexity within this existence is so phenomenal when you go into it. And the white coats who want to take advantage of what it is that we're experiencing by explaining everything, they're totally clueless. To attach oneself to this worldview that there is a reductivist way of approaching this mystery is totally delusional. It's deranged. It's retarded. to manipulate something, because it's sort of like if you stick a pin in a frog or another creature and it tweaks and it twitches, oh, you've done something very important to the realization of what this mystery is about. Yeah, you hurt somebody and they respond. Anyway, what I'm saying, how do we get into that position personally to feel that excitement, that a sense of purpose, a feeling of wanting to be alive? What creates this within us? And there are many levels to this, I think, but it all comes down to a very simple, almost, I think, primordial, it's because that's how we're made, fact. And that is, as we become more open to the possibility that the world we experience, even though matter is incredibly powerful, the cosmos is infinite, that the inner world that is active in the sense of your feelings, your thoughts, reflections, understandings, anything to do with this level of abstraction that actually functions within each person depending on their own level of emergence and self-emergence, is going to create incredible energy. Now that energy is also externalized, but this is where I've always had a great issue and problem, that if that energy that is externalized, that comes out of us, is not directed in a way that I suppose makes sense in the big scheme of things. It's making sense in that it is not fundamentally destructive to this process that we're involved in. We're going to get really great results, and we're going to feel a hell of a lot better than we do right now. Because generally speaking, I have a sense, even though people, you get juiced and you feel a little better for a while, or you smoke or you take whatever, this is a temporary fix. What is it that creates this fundamental feeling of wanting to be alive and getting up in the morning? And I've chosen, this is something that in my own experience, the reason I've been doing this painting thing for over 45 years now, getting on to 50 years, it's quite amazing. What I realized, and I wanted to clarify this, is when we look at an insignificant object in the sense of its utility. This is something that is always referred to. People say, well, I'd rather have a couch than a painting over the couch. And people buy their couch first and then they buy their painting. Well, it should really be the other way around. This is something that I have had discussions with people that appreciate art. They always end up buying a couch first and then they put a painting. Why not put a painting up, and then if you want to have a painting up, and then buy the couch after? Because it's very likely that couch will be gone and that painting will still be left. So your investment in a painting is a much more long-term investment if you're so inclined. Now, why would you be inclined to have a painting on the wall? And this is my comment and my thought about what makes this what I've been talking about, this feeling of meaning and connection to something, really what feeds that. So let's say you're looking at a painting, and I'm going to tell you the obvious. This is something you're going to say, well, yeah, of course, but I'm preempting it, so you just don't say, oh, well, yeah, he's saying the same thing. This has to be expressed, that when you look at something that is so, what's the word, unusual or unexpected. I think unexpected is probably a better word. Something that you hadn't thought of or would ever think of unless it was presented to you in the way that it is presented. So even in the sense of having colors appear before you that you never thought would work together, like a green and a purpley kind of thing, or whatever that is that you hadn't thought of yourself, is unexpected, and it creates a curiosity. And that curiosity drives you deeper into your inner world on a level that the idea of this experience on this inner level is so crucial in determining what the outside world looks like to us. So we say to ourselves, well, the outside world is what it is. It's like, you know, whatever it is that you have a cup, you know, it is what it is. And you say, how is that altered by my perception of it? Well, you can look at this cup and you can say, well, somebody put a nice handle on it. And it's actually quite smooth. Somebody figured out a way of making it very elegant or soft to the touch. It's a beautiful feel. And it's very utilitarian in that there aren't too many obstacles in being able to drink from this cup. Also, it's quite large. It's the color of it. It's reflective. I can see the colors around it in it. I can see almost a rainbow of colors in the reflection on the glazing. So an object becomes a lot more, we appreciate something a lot more if we have been exposed to something that drives us into this inner sense of self and allows us to discover something. And the reason I'm saying this, it's like people say, well, yeah, that's obvious. I mean, people take time, and let's say you go to the opera and you pay your $100 now or $200 for a seat, which is insane, but anyway, you do that. And for those 2 or 3 hours, you hopefully will feel elevated in some way. You will feel exalted even. The experience, the sounds that are hitting you will create such a reverberance within our deeper self that we no longer see the external world we had imagined it to be. In other words, the appreciation changes everything around us. It no longer can be observed in the same way. It conjures new perceptions within us in order to understand what's going on outside. And if we don't have that, everything goes topsy-turvy out there. That's, I think, how it works. Why the art part is so crucial and important is to create that inner reflection and that feeling of interpreting and having this imagination. Each person has incredible powers of imagination that are dormant. And I'm trying to wake them up. And a lot of other artists, and the ones that are promoted, now I'll just comment on the idea of art that is promoted in our culture, which I call the culture of death. It's the same old, over and over. It's spectacle. And it's something created in order to rattle our cage. There's nothing wrong with rattling the cage, but it has to end up in a very deep reflection of ourselves to engender our imagination. Not the spectacle that creates, for example, you have an image of some brutal act being performed. That really rattles our cage because we have a fundamental resistance to that kind of experience. Let's say somebody gets their head chopped off in a video or in a picture. You have like even Goya Saturn eating his children. I mean, that is extremely disturbing. And people pick up on that kind of idea, that spectacle thing. Goya was not about spectacle from the point of view that it was gratuitous. It had significance in terms of his own experience. It wasn't something he was painting in order to get a rise out of somebody and run off with a bunch of money. That's not about the thing. But that's what's happening now with most of what is popular art is to either placate you or get a gratuitous rise out of you. That's not connected to anything of value. I had to make this dissertation. I had to make this talk because here I am making paintings and people say, well, I'd rather get my new suit and my furniture and all that stuff in place. It should be the other way around. I know it's hard to actually live this idea, but if, you know, in terms of my own environment, I actually have work by colleagues and friends of mine, but I'm not too interested to surround myself with other people's work anymore because I find it distracting in some ways to my own direction. Maybe that is a flaw, I'm not sure, but I tend to isolate myself in order to keep focusing on this, being able to transmit this sense of our inner world. And the important part isn't the object, other than what it engenders in the observer to use their own imagination to get a completely new picture of themselves in relation to what it is that they're looking at. And what do you think of the hat thing? Huh? The Germans love this sort of flipping up of the stuff, and the dreaded red. Fukushima is raging. Fukushima is raging, people. This is our the nail in the coffin. The nail in the coffin. And I don't know, whatever amount of work I produce that would be of significance and value. What's the point if everybody is dying of cancer and sick? What's the point? I really deal with this every day. I have a whole thing going on in my being, my dreaded feeling that what's the point? But I have to look at it from what I've experienced, what I understand, that creates the hope in me. No matter, it's just how we're built, people. It's just how we're built. We need to feel that hope. We got to get this sense of meaning back in our lives, and the way we're going to get it is by letting stuff go in. Truly let it go in, not just regurgitate the current events and see what Joe Blow is doing over there and what's going on over there. We'll take care of that, but we got to take care of that inner world. We really do. We really do.